Hey everybody, it's Jeff, and here's a quick update on what I did today on Workbench, where I stream my open source innovation work. So today I came back to work on my qmux implementation for Node.js in the browser. Since it's been a while, qmux is a stream multiplexing protocol extracted from SSH. I use it primarily for qrpc, which is the RPC system you've seen me work on a little bit, which is the foundation for my distributed object system. So the goal for today was to write a TCP connection driver using Node's standard library. I already have an implementation of WebSocket that sort of worked in a demo, but not like a proper driver kind of API that I could just drop in to use. But I wanted to do a TCP implementation because it won't need any libraries to use it. And it's just, I like having TCP as an option as well. So it's been a while since I've worked with the Node net module, and it was not fun. I ended up referencing some libraries that wrap them with promises and kind of borrowed some code. But yeah, my whole system is designed around async await and promises and stuff, and so a lot of the standard APIs I had to kind of wrap, even though I'm wrapping them anyway. That's kind of the whole point of this. But I got a TCP qmux demo working. That's this guy here. I don't really know how to package it up, but basically there's two big things it does. TCP listen, that gives you a listener that implements the listener API that I often use. So then I can accept a connection that actually is a session, and then I can work with that session directly. And then there's TCP dial, which will then just give me a session. So that's kind of wrapping up all the basically the stuff that you would do with Node's API and the net module, and implementing an interface so they're just like drop-in replacements here. And then so after that I got it working with qrpc again. I made a qmux demo with this kind of standard hello world call where it does hello world and runs a lowercase on it. And it wasn't working, but it ended up being a bug that I had seen in the implementation for qmux, so I was able to fix that, and it ended up working. Unfortunately, that didn't fix what was wrong with libmux. For some reason, my libmux implementation isn't working. Libmux is my it's basically a C library that's wrapping a Go library that lets you use a couple of different stream multiplexing stuff like Quick and Muxado and qmux. I have a Go implementation of qmux. So then I decided to go back and build a better WebSocket driver here, basically based on the TCP one, because basically it does all the same stuff. I just need to replace it with a WebSocket library. And I was trying to use a more, it seemed like a more popular WebSocket library, but I really don't like it, and I guess I was running into some problems I don't actually remember now, but I was just like, if I come back to this, I'm just going to use the library that I was using before, and just wrap that up with the same structures as TCP. So there's a lot of uses for this, but I wanted to be able to use, for example, qrpc to communicate from JXA apps. So JXA being the JavaScript environment that has access to AppleScript APIs and pretty much all of the standard Objective-C environment. And so I could kind of re-export that using this system. I could re-export that API from JXA to Go or whatever language. Even though there's already like Python and Ruby Objective-C bridges, it'd kind of be like a different approach to that. But thinking about this kind of led me to look and find the bridge support files that I'd read about that supposedly come in all the bundles for all the Apple frameworks. And sure enough, let's see. Yeah, here it is. And so it's a big XML file. And I eventually found docs that describe, what this type information is and stuff like this. But some of the existing bridges, like the Python bridge and stuff, have good documentation on it. But this kind of led me to think, well, it made me, I forget where, I think it was in Node. I found a sort of more recently made Objective-C bridge in Node. It was actually pretty good because it's like not a lot of code. And when I looked at it, I saw that it was using FFI. I thought that was really interesting because FFI, is for C libraries, and it makes sense. That's how the bridge works. There's a libobjc, and it's not really documented that well. I did find something on it. I think this is basically it's the Objective-C runtime, which Objective-C is more than like a language. It's really interesting because it's a dynamic language, because the objects are not part of the language. They're kind of like a runtime thing, and that's why you're able to like dynamically generate classes and stuff like that. And so it makes sense. Oh, you could export that as a library. So reading all this, I decided it was kind of impossible that there was no Go bridge yet. So I dug around a little bit more than last time, and I found a couple of them. And maybe the best one was this one, but it hasn't been touched for like basically 6 years. But it does a pretty good job at wrapping all of that Objective-C library. And then their wrappers, then it was kind of weird that the actual framework wrappers were relatively simple, but obviously handmade. And so I think I could easily generate these APIs with the scripting bridge schemas based on his sort of core API. That makes the generation a lot easier, right? So that's really interesting. I think that would end up being a lot cleaner than like some of the Ruby and Python bridges, but I don't know. What's funny is I wouldn't really be that interested in using JXA if I could use Objective-C APIs from Go. The AppleScript APIs would still be nice, and it still might be easiest to re-expose those using qrpc from JXA. But we'll see. Anyway, there's obviously, I would be doing so much of this kind of boring work if there wasn't a lot of other things that I could do with it. So I'm just going to have to kind of like think and reassess. But now I have another thing to work on, which is playing with this library and seeing what I can do with it from Go. So that'll be fun. Maybe I'll do that next week. So anyway, that's it. Stay tuned, subscribe to follow along with my projects, and thanks for watching.